The launch of No Man's Sky, what an absolute failure. CEO of Hello Games, Sean Murray, made big promises about the game, and not enough people were skeptical if this indie studio of just 4 team members could pull off a project with such scale.
We're a tiny little indie studio.
Impressive gameplay videos and tech demos sold the idea that No Man's Sky was the next big game. This is why everyone was disappointed at launch. The advertised 18 quintillion planets were samey and empty, half of the promised content wasn't in the game from the start, and during the initial release, Hello Games along with Sean Murray went radio silent, failing to respond to any of the criticisms from fans around the universe. But if we look at No Man's Sky today, it's doing fantastic. All the content promised from the start is essentially in the game, and with the recent integration of room-scale VR, now is the best time to play. This story is an outlier in the gaming industry, a story of redemption. This is the rise of No Man's Sky. Straight from the beginning, the development of No Man's Sky was rocky. Christmas Eve 2013, the office of Hello Games was flooded. With only seconds to escape, much of the progress was washed away immediately. This was the worst Christmas present anyone could have got, but the studio was determined to not fall behind on the project, and even with the setback, Sean was adamant the game wouldn't suffer delays. The team swiftly began redeveloping what was lost. No Man's Sky is massive, and it needed to be marketed well. And Sony was there to provide assistance with that. They were so cushy of Hello Games that you could have been fooled into thinking they were a first-party developer. The game was showcased during Sony's E3 conference in 2014, and for this, Sean and the team developed a 6-planet demonstration to showcase the best of the game. You know that the universe of No Man's Sky is procedurally generated, right? Well, this was still evolving at the time, and the team needed something more reliable to display the features of the game. Let's say the gameplay did the trick, because it looked fantastic. The planets were full of life and vegetation, the game was bright, no dull moments. There was even a dogfight in space that ended on a surface of a planet. How cool is that?
Stunning.
Yeah, they did this time what they didn't do the first time, which a lot of people wanted to see, which was the transition from space back down to terrain.
I'm pretty sure that people had the chills while watching this gameplay unfold. I mean, I know I did. The game looked flawless, but let's remember these environments were hand-sculpted by the game designers, not the procedural generation, and this enabled the team to create planets that looked much more exciting than the procedural generation could ever pull off. Sony did their job and marketed the game well. This led to No Man's Sky being a timed exclusive for the PlayStation 4, but this was later backtracked when Murray announced the game would release simultaneously on PC too, with an Xbox release in the future. No date was announced during the conference, but more gameplay was unveiled to players who were eager to get their hands on a copy. There was speculation that No Man's Sky would release during Paris Games Week in October 2015 during Sony's conference, but these rumors were shut down with an expected release date of June 2016. The pressure was building for Hello Games to deliver something spectacular, which meant they wouldn't attend E3 2016. This allowed the team to further polish the game, especially when they decided to push back the release 2 months to August 2016. With all the press Murray had done, the riveting gameplay demos, the impeccable trailers, the exceptional soundtrack, expectations for No Man's Sky skyrocketed. Could this game live up to the hype? Maybe. That'll be later down the line, because if Ubisoft has taught me one thing, it's to never trust the trailers. August came around fast for Hello Games, but not fast enough for the millions around the world. One particularly impatient player bought a leaked PlayStation 4 copy of No Man's Sky for over $1,000 and began posting various gameplay videos online.
Oh shit, it's downloading! It works!
Soon after, others came forward with their leaked copies of the game, showing their experience, and the overall vibe was pretty bad to say the least. The planets were nothing like the trailer suggested. They were barren, empty, dull. The game was unstable, with crashes being the norm, and over half of the content that was promised was non-existent. Eager to control the public's perception of No Man's Sky, Murray took to Twitter to say the following: "We've spent years filling No Man's Sky with surprises. You've spent years waiting. please don't spoil it for yourself. Suddenly, players were filled with skepticism, especially when Murray didn't give many review copies away to critics. Were Hello Games trying to make a quick buck on an unfinished mess? Sort of, but you'll understand what I mean by this later on in the video. August 9th, 2016 rolled around, and the game released with average reviews from the critics lucky enough to get a review copy. The hype train had crashed. The game was repetitive and monotonous, with tedious survival elements, poor performance and crashes exactly like the leaked copies. The game itself is a technological marvel. Being able to generate 18 quintillion unique planets is incredible. But filling these planets with plants and animals is just... it's a challenge. A procedural algorithm to generate the universe can only take a game so far with a finite amount of assets to stitch together. And it seemed Hello Games were leaning on that to be the wow factor. But this just wasn't the case. There were so many promised features missing in the game which riled the community. An entire list was compiled on Reddit with sources and all. This was bad for Murray's image, as many of the sources linked back to him discussing the game with the press. The player counts were incredible on the release date, with more than 200,000 concurrent players on the Steam edition alone. But this would nosedive alongside the average review getting worse day by day. Once October hit, the game had one of the worst ratings on Steam, with a mostly negative average from more than 70,000 players. One of the most frustrating lies from Sean was the way multiplayer worked in No Man's Sky. Murray stated the game would have multiplayer, but not in a traditional fashion. No one wants to explore the universe alone. You want to fly around on your ships with your friends, but this just wasn't possible in the release build of the game. The community wanted multiplayer from day one. Who doesn't these days? But later in development, Sean started backtracking, telling fans not to see No Man's Sky as a multiplayer title. And this wouldn't be so bad if Murray himself didn't say this.
Will you be able to play with your friends? Yeah.
Streamers put this to the test, flying to the same planet, standing in the same positions, but they just couldn't see each other. By far, one of the biggest factors that hurt Hello Games during the release of No Man's Sky was their silence. There was no response from Sean or the studio addressing the criticisms of the game. No updates, no news, just silence. Players felt mugged, rightfully so. They got an unfinished mess followed by nothing. No one knew what Hello Games were up to, but this silence could be the breakthrough the team needed as they were grinding to release their first major free update to the game, the Foundation update. Announced in November 2016, this was proof that Hello Games were sticking around to fix the mess they'd released. The studio also admitted to being quiet, but they hadn't been idle at all as they'd continuously taken in legitimate user criticism to make the changes players needed. I truly understand the frustrations players had with the game, and for the studio too. They took your money at a AAA price and gave you an unfinished mess filled with lies. But some people took the hate wagon too far, with death threats against Sean and bomb threats against the studio. A part of me is surprised that the team stuck around with the project after these extreme reactions, but I think everyone is glad that they did. After the release of No Man's Sky, Hello Games' reputation was in shambles. It was clear the studio had a long journey to the center of redemption to become a reputable developer once again. This journey would start with numerous free content updates to the game, adding features that were missing straight from launch, features requested by players, bug fixes, balancing, and much more. Throughout the next few years, these updates would be announced, then released in the following months, slowly fixing up the game to what it was meant to be. Some of these updates include the Atlas update. This added a revised storyline, new planets, crash ships, and more. The next update, the biggest addition with full multiplayer support. This update was so game-changing that critics come back to review the game for a second time. And finally, the Beyond update. Full room-scale VR, and so much more. This is the update that got me interested in No Man's Sky again, and I wasn't the only one. Critics come back again, just a year later, to see what the fuss was about. And they weren't left disappointed. Creating games is an expensive investment. After releasing both Joe Danger games, the predecessor of No Man's Sky, Hello Games were financially stable. However, a series of unfortunate events drained every last penny from Hello Games, The Christmas Eve flood, the game delays, the team was struggling to stay afloat, running on company credit cards as the release loomed closer. With no other options, and perhaps pressure from Sony, Murray was forced to release something to the community, otherwise No Man's Sky may have ceased development, maybe forever. This is what I meant earlier in the video when I said Hello Games were trying to make a quick buck off an unfinished mess. You guys, fans of No Man's Sky, you've essentially funded what the game is today. The game is in the best state it's ever been in, and sure, Sean shouldn't have overhyped the game, discussing features that hadn't even reached development yet, teasing things in trailers that weren't in the game, and whilst he definitely could have been more honest about the launch features of the game, I don't think he lied about what would be in No Man's Sky. I think if Sean had opened up about the financial struggles Hello Games faced with development, of course the community would have understood why they needed to do what they did. But then, we wouldn't get to see one of the greatest comebacks of all time. Now the only questions left to ask are, has No Man's Sky redeemed itself? Has Hello Games redeemed themselves? Yes. I really do think that No Man's Sky has finally lived up to the hype it received in the beginning. In fact, I believe the game is better now. I also feel that Sean and Hello Games have learned valuable lessons from No Man's Sky, as they now understand that managing hype is one of the biggest factors in games marketing. Why not to promise features that haven't started development yet, and why to never talk to the press? When you try and understand the circumstances that the studio were presented with, it's easy to see why Hello Games released an unfinished product. And even after all the death threats, the hate train, and all the bad talk about the game, this tiny little indie studio pushed through and created a game for people all over the universe to love very much.
Oh, for sake! You don't get a
Slow, disciplined redemption of No Man's Sky has been typical.
And you should 100% pick it up.
Thank you, Hello Games, for creating such a wonderful experience, and thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe to see more content like this. Tell me, were you surprised No Man's Sky had such an incredible comeback? Was there anything I missed in this video you wish I mentioned? Please let me know in the comments below, and if you're interested, you can watch the real reason Cube World failed by clicking the end screen card right here.